Hello.
Hello, guys.
Welcome to Trail Talk. I'm Edie.
I'm Mary.
And we're sure glad you could join us here. We're in our classroom studio, coming to you live from the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center in Duncan, Oklahoma. You know what? If you've never been here, you should come visit us.
That's right. We're
Yeah.
always here.
Yeah.
The only day we're not is Monday.
Yeah. We're here from 10 to 5 every day except Monday. So put that into your busy schedule. Come see us. As you can see from the screen behind us, we're going back to the Wichita Mountains today. That's one of our vacay destinations, day trip. I mean, like literally from Duncan, the Wichita Mountains aren't even an hour's drive.
I was going to say less than an hour. Easy.
Yeah, and a full day of fun
activity, hiking,
all kinds of things to do over there. Beautiful scenery,
wildlife,
lots of wildlife, and we've got a lot of things that we're going to tell you about the Wichita Mountains. But the first thing, I thought it would be kind of fun to find out why they're called the Wichita Mountains.
Okay, let's dive into it.
So the word Wichita comes from a Wichita Native American word. So the Wichita people are a tribe of Native Americans, and they actually lived here in, they might have actually been, I think they were a Plains tribe. And so they lived here prior to the days of Indian Territory, but then they were also given land
in that time.
Yeah, during that time, before the land runs and all of that. Anyway, it's derived from two words, wheats, which means man, and Etah, which signifies of the north. So they called themselves men of the north, I guess. And, if they're from Oklahoma, I don't know what north of what that really is referring to.
I don't know either. But if you're on a mountain, you're
north of the Red River. I mean,
yeah.
I don't
There's
know
not much.
Yeah, I don't know what that is referring to. But it is derived from these two Wichita words, and I mean it's actually the same name as the tribe of people.
Weetsiwa. So it'd be
Wichita.
Yeah.
And which probably then when
translates.
The white man comes along and says it, we say Wichita. Yeah, let's put an Okie accent on it there. So but the Wichita Mountains, where they're located, I think the map is next here. Yeah, it's not a super great map, but Wichita Mountains are right down here. Here's Oklahoma City, I-44, Highway 81, and then it's Highway 81 is kind of here, and that should be a little, I don't know how accurate this is, but it's, I guess they're west, just a hair north of Lawton. If you know where Lawton is, kind of straight west of, even a little bit north too of Fort Sill. Over there, Fort Sill is just on the north side of Lawton, and then it's a little bit further north, but then they stretch like for 30 miles or something. They cover a large area out here in western Oklahoma. So there were a number of Native American people who lived in this area. I mean, all of the Plains tribes, let me find this because I don't want to leave out any of the tribal names. So there were, is it on this first page? Well, I find all of there were a lot of,
I had it too.
The tribal names here. Yeah, here we, you know what? We'll come across it at some point during this.
Continue and I'll
okay, Mary will find it for us. Anyway, so it is an area in Oklahoma that.
Here we
go. Okay, you got it.
Yes. The Comanche, Jackson, Kiowa. No, that's counties. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, so the Wichita Mountains is I mean, if you're from a place that has real mountains, then you kind of would chuckle to yourself if you
Yeah,
saw the
you
Wichita
would.
Mountains.
You would.
But for us Flatlanders around here, people who live in the Great Plains, I mean, there's some elevation over there. And so it is a mountain range.
It is.
I guess geologically speaking, it's considered a mountain range. Anyway, we'll just go on. So
Yeah,
the first really cool thing is that there was a big gold rush there. That was like in 1901 to about 1904. And this, I don't really know. It doesn't really, I mean, it only lasted 3 years.
Yeah, not really a
Yeah,
whole lot of
so
time there.
I'm not-
like the California gold rush
Yeah,
there.
I'm thinking that the gold that was found was probably not enough to support
Long
a
lasting.
lot of gold
Yeah.
miners. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they probably kind of gave up on it after a little while. They say that there's still old mining equipment and mines and stuff over there at the
Ruins and
Wichita
dirt.
Mountains.
Mhm.
And if any of you are like
History
treasure
buffs,
seekers,
There's folklore that there's
yeah, there's
like
still
some
all sorts of treasures over
loot
there.
hanging.
Loot, yeah,
Loot.
booty.
Yeah.
Not like a pirate's booty, but like a gold miners or something,
Yeah.
or
Like the James gang.
yeah, the James gang.
is
Man,
supposed to have.
there's
there.
all kinds of stories about that. Jesse and Frank James, and man, that in fact, I was thinking when I was doing this that we should do a trail talk on some of those gangs
Those
that
gangs.
Lived around here, because I think that would be a very interesting
It would
one.
be.
But and Mears.
Mhm.
If you've ever been to the Wichita Mountains, or if you've heard of Mears and you haven't been there, you should go and have a Longhorn burger for
Mhm.
sure.
Yep. They're good.
And cobbler.
Yep.
But Mears was a town
It was a
of
mining
500. Yeah, it was a mining town
Mhm.
and had about 500 residents
Yeah.
during kind of the peak of this
Think of
gold
that
boom.
season.
But the last check, the population of Mears was 4
Yeah.
people. So
It's dwindled a bit.
yeah, but Mears also has a seismic, what do you call that? The reader thing. And so any earthquake that happens anywhere in the United States, they catch
They
it at
register there.
Mears. Mears is one of the first locations that
That
is aware of an earthquake.
Mhm.
And that's kind of cool. It's right there in a case when you come into the store.
Mhm.
So anyway, go check out Mears. It's pretty cool, but it was a mining town. I don't think I realized that. I don't really know what I thought it was.
I don't know if I ever heard either. I
Yeah.
just knew it was good. It's good food.
But there are some of the, besides the James gang, there's stories of Spanish traders who bartered things with the American
Mhm.
Native Americans to get tribes and to get hides, like buffalo hides and things like that. And they would give them artifacts that have historical significance from Spain or probably Mexico as well.
Uh-huh.
Colonel Henry Dodge was made the first American contact with some of the tribes when he and a troop of my favorite military word, dragoons, visited the area in 1834. And that was about the time that the government began moving Native Americans to Indian Territory. There were bands of Comanches who would pillage and hide things in the mountains. There were, just this General Phil Sheridan shot an elk there. There's just a lot of history and a lot of lore attached to this area. But I love this picture of these miners. You can tell there's like a mining shaft, and then they've got one of those things where they put the water
and the
yeah,
pan for the
pan
gold.
for the gold. What a great photograph that is. The mining activity happened also at this place called Camp Doris, which is the public campground now in the Wichita Mountains. And Theodore Roosevelt, when he went on his the famous wolf hunt with Jack Abernathy at Big Pasture, which is just kind of near the Wichita Mountains. It's kind of all around in that area. And that was like a huge hunt. Oh, we did a trail talk about that. Quanah Parker was there and all these big businessmen and everything. Anyway, but Theodore Roosevelt was like the most famous,
The headliner.
guest. Yeah. Yeah, he was the most distinguished guest that they had at Camp Doris. So the same time, 1901, 1904, that was also when the US government kind of got involved and established the Wichita Mountains as a wildlife refuge, set the lands aside. And President McKinley first did that in 1901. And then in 1905 was when Teddy Roosevelt actually made it a game preserve, and they started the Great Buffalo
Migration.
and the saving of the buffalo, which was the first Wichita Mountain Trail Talk we did, was about all of that.
All the
And,
buffalo
and how it was
trying to save them.
and how it was really developed to be a home to those buffalo. But there were also after this time, like into the 1930s, we had the Great Depression in 1929, and then President, where's the New Deal president? What's his name? Scott, do you remember his name? Okay, it'll come to me. Was before FDR. It was it Woodrow Wilson?
Woodrow Wilson.
I believe Woodrow Wilson
During the Dust Bowl.
it was the Dust Bowl days, and he established 3 organizations that ended up doing work at the refuge. It was the CCC. Is it Wilson?
Roosevelt,
Oh, Roosevelt did that. Okay.
Franklin Roosevelt.
FDR. Okay, so the CCC, which was the Civilian Conservation Corps, the WPA, the Works Progress Administration, and then the NYA, the National Youth Administration. So those were all
3
part
organizations
of the New Deal. And so the New Deal was like a government funded work program that gave people opportunities to have jobs, make a wage, because during the Great Depression years, it was bad
times.
And that was one way that people were able to, I
Work
guess, and kind of support their family. I mean, kind of, those were pretty bad days, but they did a lot of cool things
During that
at
time.
the refuge. They built the road up Mount Scott. They built
The Holy City.
Yes, they built the Holy City. They built all of the lakes. Now, we've mentioned this
all
before.
man-made.
Every lake in Oklahoma is a man-made lake, and there are a number of lakes at the Wichita Mountains: Elmer Thomas, Quanah Parker, Burford, French, Joe Johnson, Rush, Grandma, and Latonka. And
Several.
some of them are very small
Right.
lakes,
Kind of
almost
pond-like.
ponds, yeah, but they're, I guess they're not considered ponds because they're not naturally occurring. They're all man-made and considered lakes. They built the dam. So Latonka is a water source for Lawton and Fort Sill. And so they were able to build all of those things over there in the Wichita Mountains, as well as make some of the walking trails
The
that are
highway.
there. And so there are the Holy City is cool. I mean, it's the longest running Easter pageant in the United
history.
States. It began probably in 1936.
Yeah,
They built it between
1936.
35 and 36. So there are a lot of things that are still around that were built by the WPA
Back in the
and
30s.
Yeah, and In fact, I noticed our football stadium here
They've done
in
some work to that
town,
too.
yeah, on the north end and south end were these walls that were built by the WPA. And just over the last week or two, they tore down that south wall.
Mhm.
I don't know if the structure was getting unsafe or kind of falling apart or something like that.
Right.
But anyway, all over the United States, there's remnants of this WPA. But this is U.S. Wildlife Refuge was established there in 1901 by President McKinley. Next slide, please. Okay, now we talked about the fact that there were buffalo
being
that
brought
were brought to the wildlife refuge. There were a lot of other animals that were brought, but here, this is I mean, you can tell this is a ditto. This is from a ditto machine, dating myself there a little bit. But this is information that was recorded in 1945, and it talks about the government's only longhorn cattle herd is the largest on the continent and one of the largest in the world, and it was at the Wichita Mountain Wildlife Refuge in those days, which I thought was so
That's
cool.
pretty cool. September 20th, 1949.
Yeah, I did not realize that that the longhorn herd there was so significant.
Well, and still today there's over 220
yeah, the
longhorns
longhorns
there in the Wichita, mountains.
Yeah. So anyway, just some cool historic documentation of the animals and things that are there. So speaking of animals that are in the wildlife refuge,
There are more than
Yeah.
just longhorns.
a great photograph of a longhorn just kind of laying in some of the beautiful tall grass, their elk, of course, the bison, the prairie dog town. Now, that prairie dog town over there, when I was a
Emily Thomas?
kid, yeah, well, there's one by
There's actually in the
where they
mountains.
built that visitor center. There's a big prairie dog town over there. And when I was a kid, sometimes we would go driving around. Like on a Sunday afternoon, my mom and dad would say, hey, you kids want to go driving around? That's what we call it. And we
Your
drive
Sunday
over,
stroll.
we drive over to the Wichita Mountains, and we would always go to the prairie dog town. And it was just, I was always fascinated with all those holes out there, little mounds
Hundreds.
of dirt. Yeah, and those little prairie dogs just, everywhere. And I mean, I think they probably made it a little smaller than it was. You know, prairie dogs can be very destructive.
Yes.
They eat the roots of trees and things like that. So there's never any vegetation around where
it's just
dirt. The prairie dogs live. But yeah, the prairie dogs and this mountain boomer here. I mean, it's a beautiful lizard.
Those colors.
Yeah. But
I like it in the picture. I don't want to see it up close.
Yeah. One time we were out hiking at the mountains, and I was holding my youngest. He was like 2 or 3. Maybe he was younger than probably about 2. And I looked down and there was a mountain boomer just a couple of feet from my foot. And I thought, if that thing goes up my leg, I don't know what will happen to this baby.
There's no guarantee.
Yeah,
of
this
the
baby
safety of the
might
child.
fly. We were up at the top of Mount Scott, kind of walking around. Anyway, so this is by far not every species represented.
There's 650 different bison. There's 240 species of birds, 64 species of reptiles and amphibians, 50 species of mammals like the elk and the white-tailed deer, the bobcat, coyote, and fox.
Yeah, so just a little bit of everything lives over there. So, it's truly a wilderness. It really is a wilderness.
It is. It's a safe haven for those animals.
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, the Wichita Mountain, the wilderness part makes up about 15% of the whole wildlife refuge. And that wilderness is split into 2 areas. The northern part is where you don't have a lot of access to the animals. But that's okay. They need to have a place.
Some of them you don't want to get close to.
Right. But then the southern portion where the Karen Gardens Wilderness Unit is, that's where you'll drive along and you'll see the buffalo on the side of the road, or you're climbing Mount Scott and the mountain boomer runs up your leg. Theoretically.
It's open to the public.
Yeah, you can see all of those things. So when there's a fence up, or it says do not enter.
Closed
Yeah, you need to pay attention.
There's reasons for that.
Yeah, it's for protection of the animals, and then it's also for protection of the visitors
Exactly.
who are there. So this next picture, I always think that the Wichita Mountains has some really great variations in the rock formations.
Mhm.
There are,
It's not just all one.
yeah, the boulder fields, you know, it's just this
You can see
big,
the difference here. This
yeah,
is
exactly.
more dirt-like.
Yeah, a lot of dirt. Here's granite. This rock here is granite. This is granite too, but you can see the large smooth pieces of rock, and then these big boulders like they have here. So I mean, some of the boulder fields they're not even really touching each other. It's just this area where these giant boulders
They're
are
just scattered around.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just so cool, and you can tell how time and erosion has smoothed
Made its way over all of them.
those rocks, and there's
How
nothing
it
really
reacts.
sharp or jagged in those areas. Beautiful flowers. This is the Indian paintbrush. I don't really know what this purple wildflower is, but just
Pretty
a
nonetheless.
beautiful, yeah, example. There cacti over here, and then just different kinds of trees and brush. You can take some guided tours over there, but even there's some self-guided, because they've done a really good job. When they built that visitor center, they put trails, and then they
have marked
like dogwood trees and
naming
just
the different types of
all the
plant life
different
things.
things there. So it's very interesting. It's really helpful if you're not really, I'm not
Kind of a
really
novice.
good at naming certain kinds of trees. And so that's really great and educational, and it's really helpful because it's all native.
Right.
All of the plant life they have
Was
there is
there.
native.
Right.
And they have the different kinds of grasses, the prairie grasses. They have the buffalo grass, the blue stem, all those different kinds of
Native
all
grasses.
that flora that's over there. And I kind of liked using the words flora, and I don't know if you noticed I had the word fauna on the previous one with the animals, because of flora and fauna that's two ways that scientists, biologists will they'll classify, and flora is plants in a specific region. That's what that actually means. It's not just general, it's just in a specific. Fauna are animals in a specific region. And so there's your vocabulary word
lesson for today.
That's right. We like to do it all around here. Okay, so this is, I
Look at
thought
that
this
pretty
one-
picture.
oh, isn't that beautiful? Lake Latonka. Now this is Mount Scott over here on the horizon. Lake Latonka is a really big, and it's a beautiful lake. A lot of people camp around there. You can swim and ski and fish and all sorts of things here at Lake Latonka. Now, I don't have a picture of it, but Elmer Thomas, they call it LETRA, the Lake Elmer Thomas Recreation Area. And it's, so this is east of Mount Scott. Lake Latonka is to the east of Mount Scott. And Lake Elmer Thomas is like a little more south and east. It's further south than Lake Latonka is. And Lake Latonka is pretty big too. If you drive that road that goes up,
around.
and takes you up north over there. Anyway, but there are a lot of really beautiful lakes. But Lake Latonka is the largest and just really the prettiest one, I think. The next picture is a little pixelated, but this is at the Holy City. Now, the Holy City is a really cool thing to see.
It is. I remember going and taking pictures over there, and the little
The
housing,
buildings
that they're made out of the rocks like that.
Yeah, and kind of this reddish sandstone looking, maybe it's limestone, probably something. But again, it was built in the 30s.
Right. 35,
And
36.
people have weddings over there. They're used for a lot of different things through the year, through the year. And it's just like a kind of a serene place to
It's
walk
just-
through, and
It's calm and
they have things kind
calm,
of
yeah.
labeled, and
yeah, there's little labelings beside each
Mhm.
thing.
yeah. I have you ever gone to the Easter pageant?
I haven't ever been to
I
the Easter
haven't.
pageant.
I haven't either.
I've heard of it and seen pictures. But
Yeah,
I've
I
never
always
actually
wanted
been
to
there.
go, like when I was a teenager, and people would go on Saturday night
In camp.
and camp kind of. I mean, you just go out and sit out on the hillside and wait
Mhm.
for it to start because it started at dawn.
Okay.
And, it was really dramatic and everything. For some reason, my parents were never keen on me getting to go do that. If y'all are watching, I don't hold it against you at all, but I'm
But
just saying.
she still hasn't
That
done
was
it yet.
I
though.
know, even as an adult, I guess I chose not to, but I mean, it was always a thing that people
Mhm.
would go do.
Right.
Maybe teenagers weren't really as interested in the pageant as they were about just going and hanging out and staying out
Having
all
a reason
night.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But at any rate, the Holy City is a great, unique feature
It
of the
is,
Wichita
yeah.
Mountain Wildlife
I was
Refuge.
trying to think of an adjective, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's
it's a thing you won't
Place
see
of its
at a lot of
own.
other places. Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is a great example of what hiking is like. So when I said smooth rocks, you can tell that those rocks, it's, you don't have a lot of good places for footing.
And you can see here, he's trying to help this person up.
Mhm, yeah, trying to get down off of some of these rocks, or even to climb up to the top of them. Our family, we really like to get out on rocks and see if we can get to the top of them and stuff. And the Wichita Mountains is always kind of a challenge, or, maybe you have to jump across like a space
hole.
in the rocks. But, and then there are trees just growing up between these giant boulders. But I mean, hiking over there, they have you can potentially hike through rocks, and you can hike up the side of Mount Scott.
And they have them marked as to what's safe and what's not. It's
Right.
not just a free for all where you go on a trail and not know if it's going to be safe.
Yeah.
And
That's
they're
true.
very, very diligent on closing the trails if need be.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But then there are also places that you can hike that are more like this. It's an actual trail that's been it's kind of one of that little gritty,
Sandy gravel type
that
stuff.
they put on the walkways. But this is also just a beautiful example of looking out at the grasslands
All
that
those
are
native
there.
grasses.
I mean, the Wichita Mountains are well known for their grasslands, and just
It's like a
that.
nice fall.
It does,
light,
doesn't it?
those
Yeah.
colors.
And then another month or so, you could go over and probably experience the
That-
mountains.
I like that.
Just like that. It's lovely. And then this is kind of the iconic picture of Mount
Yeah,
Scott.
this is what you think of usually.
The bison, the grasses, the trees, and then Mount Scott. And the one thing that WPA built, they actually built a road that goes up Mount Scott.
So you can go up there
And it's roughly a 5K
to get to the top.
to get to the top. So there are people who actually run up Mount Scott. My husband rode his bicycle up and down Mount Scott
no.
one time.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Mount Scott's about 2,464 feet.
Yeah.
and
So
8 grade of steep.
an 8% grade, which is, I mean, that's a pretty good grade.
Mhm.
I don't think I could run my bicycle up. I could probably, if I had enough time and could just kind of pretend, like move my arms a lot, make it look like I was really jogging. I
Put more
might be
into it
able to do
than-
that.
than-
Yeah, but I don't know for sure. But Mount Scott, okay, so on Mount Scott there, they have, and all across the refuge, there are 3 different kinds of rock that are kind of
throughout the whole.
throughout, yeah. There's granite, rhyolite, and gabbro. So I wasn't really familiar with those, so I did a little deep dive.
Okay.
So granite, most people know granite. I mean,
Yeah,
people buy granite, they
anymore.
make countertops out of it,
Mhm.
or markers in
Cemetery
cemeteries.
headstones and things like that.
Around here anyway, they're mostly made of granite. But granite is an igneous rock, and igneous means it's formed from magma or like lava. So it was from a volcanic eruption of some sort, and granite forms beneath the ground.
Okay.
Okay. And that means it's intrusive. It's formed there on the surface and below the surface. Rhyolite, Rhyolite, is an igneous rock that forms when magma is ejected. Sometimes,
So it's the hot
yeah,
lava.
it's like it spits it up out of the ground and then it forms above the ground.
Okay.
And then the gabbro is an intrusive rock like granite, so it's formed underground, but it has less silica than granite does. Otherwise, it's
Pretty
almost
much
the
the same
same.
thing.
Yeah. So, you'd have to be a geologist probably to
distinguish
really,
between the two.
yeah, be able to see the, I don't know, striations and recognize the different kinds of rock. But the Wichita Mountains have like over 1 million visitors a year,
That's a lot.
which is so impressive to me. I just think that that's really significant.
It is.
And they host bike rides over there, not just up Mount Scott. I mean, they have bike rides through the refuge. I don't, they probably have a 5K over there too. I don't know for sure about that. The lands around here are not really great for crops. It's a little too dry, the soil's not just great for that. And so the 30 miles that it stretches, yeah, it's not necessarily good farmland, but then just a little ways away from it, like, I mean, it stretches almost as far west as almost to Altus. But there are all kinds of farmers out in western Oklahoma who have a lot of crops.
They're very prosperous.
Yeah, they're just not as far north. And I mentioned Fort Sill earlier, so it's really close to the Wichita Mountains, and the U.S. military used Fort Sill as that was like their place where the military were during the days of Indian Territory, moving the Native Americans there. And so they kind of used that as their place they would go. But the Apache leader Geronimo was at Fort Sill. Other American legends, such as Wild Bill Hickok and Buffalo Bill Cody, spent time there in the 7th and 10th Cavalries.
Right.
And when the issues with moving Native Americans kind of was no longer a thing.
Right.
Then it became an artillery training
Facility.
fort. And so I don't know if you live nearby, but for those of you who don't, there are times when you can feel and hear the artillery practice. Yeah.
Your windows will shake it out.
And it's actually up in the Wichita Mountains. If you're a Bill Wallace fan, there are some of his books the stories take place over by the Wichita Mountains. And so, I mean, he's got all kinds of details about caves and riverways, creeks over there, and climbing the mountains and the grasslands and just seeing all of those things. So pick up a Bill Wallace book if you want to dig a little deeper
history there
on some of it. Yeah. So anyway, they built the visitor center in 1997. So it's been there a while, but that is a really cool place too. They have a great video you can watch about the bison, and there's a lot of animals.
Auditorium that's there.
Yeah, they have a big auditorium, so they can hold conferences there. They have animals, like we have our diorama out here. They have theirs is displayed differently, but anyway, it is a great place to visit. It's excellent day trip kind of place to go. You can picnic there. There are picnic tables, hiking trails. You can drive up to the top of Mount Scott. It'll be windy.
Picnic.
I don't care if it's not windy, if there's no wind at all, if you get to the top of Mount Scott,
wind.
yeah, it's gonna be windy up there. Some of the most beautiful sunsets I've ever seen. I was on the top of Mount Scott. Yeah. So anyway, I highly recommend it. And there are a lot of little side stories connected to the Wichita Mountains that I think we'll be able to branch off into there for some other trail talks.
Trail talks to come.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us today. Tomorrow we're going on a field trip for Trail Talk.
Woohoo.
Yeah, we're going to the Stevens County Historical Museum here in Duncan. And we're going to see a World War I exhibit called Awakening the Mind.
That sounds
And
cool.
I know, right? I'm kind of excited about that. I haven't done a lot of World War I kind of studies. So I think this is going to be really interesting. So be sure and join us at 3:00, or if you can't make it, catch us later. We're out there on Facebook for
Forever and
eternity. That's right. Yeah. So anyway, I think that's everything
That
we
wraps
have for
up
you
our
today. Yeah.
Wichita Mountains Volume 2.
Volume 2. That's right. Yeah. So without further ado, we need one more. There we go.
There it is.
It's that time.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Happy
Happy
trails.
trails.